What is poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we're taking a look at another series review. And this is a little bit of a longer one because we're taking a look at all 6 episodes of Loki. And it is a very confusing series, but it is one of the better Marvel shows, and it is the most recent one I've watched. I skipped over She-Hulk, I skipped over Secret Invasion, and I skipped over another one, which I don't remember. I forgot what it was. I think it's like Agatha that I'm going to skip over as well. Agatha Covenant of whatever her show is. I don't really care for Agatha, but I will be watching What If when that comes out. I just feel like I don't need to watch them if I don't enjoy them, because it's just going to be a waste of my time. But Loki's back, and Loki is one of my favourite Marvel characters. I loved Loki Season 1, I loved the TVA, I loved the whole sort of concept behind it, the place in time. So let's get into it with Season 2. So, the second season of the American television series Loki, based on the Marvel Comics featuring the character of the series name, sees Loki working with Mobius, Hunter, B-15, and other members of the TVA to work out what's going on. And basically how this season starts is where it left off in Season 1. So, Sylvie has just killed the one, He Who Remains, which sends Loki back to the TVA. He is then time-slipping throughout the TVA's past, future, and present, so he sees the TVA being built, he sees the TVA crumbling down, and he sees the TVA in current time. He goes to find Mobius, and in doing so, he meets up with some other members of Team TVA, and he eventually finds Mobius, and Mobius takes him down to the basement to meet OB, a person he's met before but doesn't remember because he doesn't seem him as significant. Obi has spent the last 4,000 years alone, keeping on top of his work, not knowing what's going on in the rest of the TVA. He then helps him, and Loki then flips back to the past to meet OB from the past. So he's talking to past OB, which future OB is then remembering the conversation and is relaying it to Mobius. They then build a machine to help Loki stay in this current time. They then tell OB that, obviously, the timeline is branching, and that the lathe cannot handle it. So they go see the lathe. They then send Mobius outside to latch on to Loki as he evaporates himself. He is going to use one of the magic sticks to send him to the end of time. And in doing this, he obviously time slips yet again to the future this time when the TVA is crumbling down. He meets up with Sylvie and gets stabbed in the back. Mobius then gets hit by Loki as he's being dragged back to the present, and doing this saves Mobius' life pretty much and gets him through the shutter doors as the TVA closes its barriers to everything else. So now they have to go find Sylvie. They then find one of the hunters who has left. And during this time, B-15 was in a meeting trying to get the TVA on her side and be like, we all have a life on the timeline. We don't need to prune anymore. We should be protecting every timeline, not just the sacred timeline. But so the TVA is then split, and we have some members of the TVA go into the sacred timeline and planting bombs on every other timeline to sort of prune them and execute them. Miss Minutes and the head lady of the TVA then are on their own quest to leave a TVA handbook written by Obi in the hands of Victor Timely. They then go to future Victor Timely's show in 1838, and basically, he shows his lathe. He shows his time lathe, which turns time into electricity. Sylvie is then found at McDonald's. They put the hunter guy back in prison with the rest of the hunters, and they stop Sylvie from killing Victor Timely, take Victor Timely back to the TVA, and Sylvie back to the TVA. In this point, Victor Timely gets seduced by Miss Minutes, and the head of the TVA, the lady, she gets sent to the end of time, and by Sylvie. which is odd enough. But she then hears from Miss Minutes that she was there at the end of time with He Who Remains until he sent her back to the TVA and had her memory wiped. So then she goes back to the TVA, to the prison room where everyone is being held, all the rogue hunters are being held. Only one of those rogue hunters joins the head of the TVA, and the rest get crushed in the box machine. We then have Victor Timely helping OB and the others make a machine to make the lathe bigger. We then have Mobius get a cup of hot cocoa, and Sylvie and Loki go off on their own. Then Victor Timely wants a cup of hot cocoa, so one of the guards, the trusted guards, takes him to get it. Here, there's a little bit of suspense, something goes wrong. We have one of the only hunter remaining kill the other good trusted hunter and take Victor Timely to the head of the TVA. The head of the TVA then interrogate him, question him on what machine he's building, why he's building it, and at this point, there's an all-out brawl. Sylvie mind controls the hunter to kill the head of the TVA and send her to the end of time, yet again. Victor Timely is then taken, and he's put in the suit. He finishes building the machine, he goes out onto the runway and turns to noodles. I don't know what Marvel's obsession is with turning people to noodles, but it's getting over the top now. Loki then ends up time-slipping again and sees the variants of Mobius as a jet ski salesman, B-15 as a doctor, Sylvie yet again as a McDonald's worker, and OB as a bookseller, and then Casey as someone who escapes Alcatraz, which is a little confusing, but whatever. So he's time-slipping between each place and each person until he meets OB. OB tells him he needs to get all these people together. Loki so happily has one of the TVA handbooks, and he gives that to OB to sort of learn it all again and rebuild Tempad. He takes 19 years to do that. He took a month off to sort of rebound from his wife who left him and him who lost his job. But he finally built the Tempad. He then meets up with Mobius and Loki. Loki then convinces Mobius, the Alcatraz prisoner, I forgot his name, I literally just said it, KC, and B-15 to all come and join his cause. He then goes and sees Sylvie, who's the only person that remembers him. I don't know why, but Sylvie's like, no, let them live their lives. This is what she wanted. They have free will. Let them live it. Let them do what they want. Loki's like, they should have a choice to stay at the TVA, and that choice was taken away when the time stream and the lathe blew up, because Victor Timely turned to noodles. And then, because of this, I don't know, Sylvie went back to McDonald's, Loki went back and told them that he doesn't need their help anymore. Sylvie then comes back because her timeline turned to noodles. So then, when she came here, that timeline turned to noodles. So then, Loki works out how to control his time slipping, and he goes back in time to when Victor Timely turned to noodles, asked Obi what he could do differently, and he keeps going back a little bit further, trying to make them go through it and do everything faster. He then takes a couple of centuries to learn how to use mechanics so he can build the machine faster and give it to them straight away and send Victor Timely out there because he was the one who did it. And he does all this and all this and all this, and it still fails because there is an infinite number of timelines being created. So the lathe needs to grow infinitely, and they cannot do that. So they send Loki goes further and further back to the point where Sylvie killed He Who Remains. He has a chat with He Who Remains, who is still planning all this. He planned all of this for after his death. He lied. He knew what was going to happen after his death. He planned it all, which is absolutely wild and crazy. And big plot point, big plot twist. Loki then gets given a choice to either kill Sylvie and keep the sacred timeline, or have nothing and have all the timelines have a war and kill each other. That's his options that he's being presented. He then goes to talk to Mobius and Sylvie, who basically give their side of the answer. And Loki then goes back to when Victor Timely turned to noodles, pushes him out the way, and goes out there onto the walk himself, destroys the lathe, and all the timelines start dying. He then starts collecting all the different timelines, all the different time strings, and builds a time tree. And he's at the center of it, becoming the storyteller, being able to control each and every timeline and make sure that it lives. He's sacrificing himself, living in isolation to protect everyone else. Mobius then goes off and takes a look at his life for the first time. If he was never abducted into the TVA, he meets up with Sylvie and they're like, hey, just take a minute to sit right here. Loki then sheds a tear because he sees this and he's happy that Mobius left the TVA, but B-15 is still running it, and they're running it as a team, checking up on all the different Kang members, making sure they never find out about the TVA, but also keeping them in check so there's no multiversal war. God damn, that was a lot to talk about, and it was such a goated series. The acting is incredible. Tom Hiddleston has finally concluded his 14 years of playing Loki, and it is incredible. 14 years of playing Loki, 14 years of his life, finally concluded on a satisfying ending with Loki's glorious purpose, which he was destined for, and which he said he was destined for in the first Thor movie when he was introduced. It is incredible how they linked it all the way back, and it is perfect. It is perfect English literature. You learn about a character circle coming when you're reading a book, when you're reading a story. If it comes back to the start of the book, making a full circle, making a solid conclusion, which links back to the start, that makes a perfect story. So Loki's entire story throughout the MCU has circled back to his glorious purpose, and he has finally done what he wanted. He wanted a throne. He wanted to be king. He then realized he didn't want that, but then he did it anyway to save his friends. He changed from being a villain to a good guy, and then ultimately getting his goal, which he originally wanted, realizing he didn't want it, but doing it anyway to save his friends. And it is just so perfect. The series was incredible. I loved all the time travel, the sort of time threat when there was they were literally running on the last few seconds of time that they had before the TVA exploded, which was incredible. I loved the visuals as well, the CGI of Loki's magic, the noodle turning everyone into noodles was cool as well. The new members of the team with OB and Victor Timely was cool as well. They somehow saved Victor Timely as well. He no longer turned to noodles, and he turned to noodles so many times. It's literally Kang 0, MCU like 4,000 at this point. The amount of Kangs that have already died in the MCU is insane. The story was incredible, and it had a great conclusion to Loki's final arc. The animation and CGI was incredible. TVA looks as good as always. I loved the time pressure that it involved. It made it really tense. We had some really sad moments. And when Mobius died, when Victor Timely died, I couldn't help but laugh when Victor Timely died. I don't know why, I'm sorry. But I just burst into laughter when it happened. I was not expecting it at all. I managed to stay away from all Loki spoilers. But it is just one of the best MCU series. I will give it that. It has rejuvenated my love for the MCU. It has brought me back into the MCU, and it sparks hope that there is still good to come from the MCU, because currently everything after Endgame has been pretty mediocre, pretty shit, except Loki Season 1, Loki Season 2, Moon Knight was decent as well. We also have so many other MCU projects like Guardians of the Galaxy. There is like a handful of good ones, but so many others have been very mediocre to shit. But it is just incredible. Just his new outfit as well. His cape is literally strands of timelines, and the green tree looks really cool. The green coloring as well. It used to be like this blue, this light blue to purple, which is obviously Kang's colors, and now it's turned to Loki's colors, which is like the greens and the sort of blacks as well. We also have a satisfying conclusion to everyone's characters. We have Mobius finally having a life on the timeline with jet skis, the jet skis which he loved and talked about throughout Season 1. We have a satisfying conclusion to Miss Minutes. She has come back and now helping the TVA again. We have a conclusion to B-15, now leading the TVA. OB has come from the basement up to the top, and he's now sort of being the head maintenance guy, getting to talk and interact with people after 400 years of isolation. We have KC coming out of his shell, starting to talk to people more. We have Sylvie going back to work at McDonald's as well, living her best life, getting a life on the timeline which she fought so hard for, and Loki sacrificing himself to give everyone that. It's just so incredible and so wonderful. It's nice to see everyone get their happy ending and get what they wanted, except the head of the TVA, who was sent to the end of time and actually died. Yeah, she was sent to the end of time. You know where Loki was sent and he met all the other Loki variants? Yeah, she was sent there and she got killed by the purple creature. Which I kind of forgot what it was. But it was nice. It was nice to see how Loki Season 2 started where Season 1 ended. And it was very satisfying to see the conclusion of this story. And God, it's just one of the best MCU things in a while. Since Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm going to say. Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 3, this is the best thing since that. And it does bring a smile to my face. And I want that new sort of Loki costume to be a Funko Pop, a Marvel Legend figure, and I want it in Lego because it is such a cool outfit. I don't know how they're going to do the horns. They just look so menacing. And I like how they've mixed like a new outfit for him. It's like a mix of everyone's outfits. If that makes sense, it's the old Loki outfit with the horns, but they're more black and to fit the sort of time strands. But they also have Kid Loki's sort of torso-like outfit, like his robes and stuff. But it's still in that green for Loki. And his suit's just so cool. I did like his sort of TVA suit with the brown, but, you know, this new one just topsides like a really cool suit. The set design was incredible. The sort of clothing and everyone's outfits was incredible. They all looked so good. But, yeah, I never really got an answer for the green pies. They were just there. That was it. They were just there. It was like a pastime. They would go get green pie and sort of learn about it. Like, eat pie, and it would sort of progress the story because we would get like them to have a conversation. It was like a tell not show type of thing. That's how they'd progress it. They'd go eat pie and they'd talk for a bit and it would give the audience more information than what they could show, and just give them like time to work stuff out for themselves. Like they would talk it out and they would work out a mystery and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know what it was about. There was a very specific colour imagery with green where Loki had to prune himself when the clock struck green. There was green pies, and the tree at the end was obviously green because it was infused with Loki's power. For whatever reason, seeing Loki in the tree brings me satisfaction that his story arc is completed, but it also worries me because Loki doesn't have infinite power. Loki is a god, yes, but he isn't strong enough to hold up that tree forever. So, I don't know, it just feels like it's feeding off his life force, and I get Loki's a god, Loki's an Asgardian, but I don't think he has infinite power. I don't think he can stay there forever. I do think he's going to end up getting drained and killed. He has all of knowledge. He can see every timeline. Maybe he'll come down and help. Maybe he'll sort of astral project himself into some MCU stuff. But at least now he can check up on Thor, see how Thor's doing. I don't know if he can communicate with any of these characters, but he can see how his Thor is doing and see how all of his friends are doing, which is incredible as well. He can always watch them and he can always be there to sort of celebrate their achievements. He is isolated and he can't communicate with them, but he can still watch over them like a guardian angel, and he can still be a part of their life, and they will all still know he's there. They will all still have that sort of sense of camaraderie and family where they're like, hey, he's in our hearts, he's always with us, and he can still watch over their stories, and they will know that he's still watching over them, and they can have like little conversations with him. They won't get an answer back, but in movies where like a character dies and the close friends sort of sit in bed at night, look up at the roof and sort of talk to them just to get their feelings off their chest and stuff like that. That would be really good. I thought it was a big cop-out as well, that He Who Remains still planned everything after his death, and how the Loom was supposed to delete other timelines except the Sacred One. I thought that was a bit of like a cop-out thing as well. and how he planned it all. I just think it made it a little bit shit. It was a great reveal, but it was like, oh, if he planned it all, why did he lie in the first one? Like, you know, you said he didn't plan it all. This was all still his plan, his doing. I don't know if Loki being the time tree, the storyteller, is part of his plan or not, but everyone got a happy ending. Everyone's story concluded, and it is one of the better Marvel MCU shows. I am going to give it a 9 out of 10 because of its flaws. Like, Sylvie should not be happy working at McDonald's. Hearing that beep, 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 boop, boop, that McDonald's beeping is atrocious. It gives me a headache just being in there for the 20 minutes it takes for them to make my food. But being in there for 8 hours listening to that is torture. Also, customer service work is atrocious. I've worked in a fish and chip shop. I have worked in customer service, and it is atrocious. Customers are awful. You won't know how awful customers are until you've worked in customer service, and you'll see how awful and annoying people can be, and it is just awful. So I don't know how she enjoys that McDonald's. Fair enough, it's one of the original McDonald's where everything was a lot happier, cheerier, and you didn't have that constant beeping, but she's like immortal. She's going to be in that McDonald's job for a good 1,000 years. She will hear that fucking beep at some point. But other than that, it is definitely 9 out of 10. I do recommend you go watch it. There is 6 episodes at 40 to 50 minutes each, and you can go watch them all on Disney Plus right now. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed this YouTube video. I'll see you all in the next one. Have a nice day, and goodbye. Stay home and stay safe. Alright, bye-bye now.